One of the many goals of Hitler's followers was control over the population's sexual life. To achieve this, the government implemented various incentives and absurd programs while also enforcing strict control. Anyone who violated the sexual ideals of Nazism could end up in a concentration camp, where they faced death from hunger, disease, or execution. Before Hitler came to power, Germany experienced a period of relative sexual freedom, during which traditional values lost their significance among the population. This provoked a reaction from the most conservative segments of society, including the National Socialist Party. After World War I, Germany saw a declining birth rate, which the Nazis considered a consequence of these new degenerative tendencies. Starting in 1933, with the establishment of the Third Reich, the Nazis aimed to promote their own particular vision of sexuality, which, although despotic and controlling, contained numerous contradictions. On one hand, the Nazis propagated traditional values, emphasizing the importance of heterosexuality and chastity. Adolf Hitler himself never openly displayed his relationship with Eva Braun, his wife for many years. He kept her a secret because he wanted to be seen as a celibate romantic, devoted solely to Germany, which he considered his true love. On the other hand, Hitler was convinced that if the female population learned about his relationship, they would stop supporting him. For Nazism, heterosexuality was a moral duty, as it was the only way for couples to have children and populate the Third Reich, ensuring the future of the Aryan race. Thus, under the guise of sexual conservatism, the government associated itself with serving the greater goal. Additionally, the regime praised the family of Hitler's Minister of Propaganda, Joseph Goebbels, whom the Germans were encouraged to emulate in newspapers. Photos of children playing in the garden have appeared, helping their mothers with household chores or hugging each other. The Third Reich indirectly encouraged premarital or extramarital sex. Although this may seem contradictory, the goal of Nazism was to increase birth rates, regardless of the need to turn a blind eye and avoid marriage. In reality, a large part of young people aged 10 to 18 were part of the Hitler Youth and the League of German Girls, Nazi organizations intended for minors. In cases where meetings were held between boys and girls, leaders encouraged relationships between them with the aim of starting sexual life at an early age. The faster they gave birth, the higher the number of teenage pregnancies, and government propaganda praised the role of single mothers, considering them as the pillar of the new society. Following the same logic, the Third Reich sought to equalize the rights of illegitimate children with those born in wedlock so that parents would not refuse to have them. In this sense, the following quote attributed to Hitler, introduced in 1944, is necessary. Pedagogical work must provide precise instructions. Writers and artists will need to prohibit novels, stories, or movies that treat illegitimate children as if they have less value than those born out of wedlock. Even ardent supporters of the regime flirted with polygamy, meaning that a man could have several wives at the same time. One of the most resonant cases was that of Martin Bormann, a secretary of Hitler and one of the leaders of the National Socialist Party, who, being married, started an extramarital affair with an actress named Manja Baroness. Bormann had no problem confessing this to his wife and sent letters with the following content. "I feel incredibly happy being in a double marriage. What do you say, my love, about your mad husband?" It is interesting that the response did not make itself wait, and when he arrived it became clear that it was not a problem for his wife. The answer was as follows: "It is such a pity that such wonderful women are deprived of the opportunity to become mothers. You can change that, but you will have to ensure that your mistress has a child this year, and next year I will make sure you always have a free woman. It would be good if at the end of the war a law allowing capable men to have 2 wives simultaneously was adopted. However, polygamy and extramarital relationships were only welcomed if practiced by a Nazi man. The Nazi movement believed that the female population should be subordinate and dependent, which was completely contrary to the trends of the 1920s. An ideal woman was considered one who stayed at home, took care of domestic responsibilities, fulfilled her husband's demands, and cared for the children. To promote such views, The government banned women from holding leadership positions in the Nazi Party to keep them away from politics, which was exclusively reserved for men. However, this did not prevent several women from occupying prominent positions in the Third Reich, including Ilse Koch, a key figure in the Buchenwald concentration camp known for her sadism, and Leni Riefenstahl, a filmmaker of Nazi regime films. It is interesting to note that female homosexuality was not viewed as harshly as male homosexuality. During the years of Nazism, government propaganda claimed that love between men was deviant and contradicted the goal of propagating the Aryan race. Persecution of such individuals was carried out by the Gestapo, which compiled so-called pink lists in 1934 containing the names of homosexuals in each city. Armed with this information, the Nazis conducted raids on gay community clubs and bars, arrested their members, and held them in custody without a warrant. During their arrest, they were blackmailed or tortured to reveal other homosexuals, and thus the procedure was repeated. Starting in 1938, the Gestapo announced that it would send gays to concentration camps, where they were identified by a pink triangle embroidered on their prison uniforms and subjected to daily humiliation and torture. As we can see, Nazism insisted on controlling the sexual lives of Germans, directing it at its own discretion. In order to satisfy their goals of propagating the Aryan race, this nightmare continued until 1945, when the Second World War ended.